You look at just throughout history, and we talked about this even from since high school out, like whether it be apocalypse or, you know, a time where we just have to like depend on ourselves as opposed to just like the higher ups of companies and stuff. It's just weird that we've kind of adapted in a way to like what's going on. It almost feels like this is normal. Like this isn't weird, you know?
Yeah.
And
we've been like beaten down into just like submitting basically.
Yeah. And
yeah, I was driving the other day and I like was thinking to myself, I was like driving down 83 back to my house. I think it was like on Christmas. And I was like, would I be freaked out if I just saw a big ass explosion? Because like that explosion in Nashville happened. I saw the video footage from that. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. Because I was just in Nashville. And Joey texted me and was like, dude, we ate dinner on that street.
Shit.
That blew up. And I was like driving down 83 trying to imagine just a big ass like mushroom cloud popping up in the city. And I was like, I don't even know if I'd be surprised. Like, that's just how weird shit is now. Like, shit could just be going down. Like shit that you'd see in like a war movie, like, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
I don't know. It's kind of crazier when like 20,000 people died,
right,
over the span of like 2 months.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird because what we're going through right now is like, this is a war-like situation, and I think even like during World War II, if you were just an average American living in everyday society in the USA during World War II, like you weren't a soldier, you were just a guy who was working a job or whatever, like you were nowhere near as affected by that over there than every single person in the country is affected by this right now. Like this is more...
Well, we didn't get like instant information like this back then too. Like people would straight up go to like a movie theater and then they'd play the news at the movies.
Yeah.
Like that's how shit happened back then. Yeah. We get like a fucking notification on our phone every time like 200 people get tested positive today. Like, I get like alerts on my phone every day and I'm like, why? I don't want to see this. Like, this is just freaking me out. Yeah.
I know it's kind of a hokey argument, or I guess I'm on the fence about whether or not it's a hokey thing to say, or whether like if it's just something that sounds like a good idea, or if it actually makes sense. But like, the people that are making these laws for us, their paychecks were never halted this whole time. They're still getting paid. They're still going to work. They're still doing and I wonder if, you know, for all the people that they're putting out of work with no consequence and no compensation, like, hey, dude, you're literally, we're taking away your right to make a living. We're not giving you anything really that even comes close to something that can help you get by during that time. And they're completely unaffected. It's like, why, you know, what if their paychecks were withheld until they made a decision? You know, how much quicker shit would get done?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the way that I look at it is like, you know, like when you go to a grocery store or something like that, and then you pay for the shit, and then it goes, would you like to make a donation to some cancer, you know, treatment thing for, you know, research? And I feel like 9 times out of 10 people are like, no, I'm okay. Because like they themselves have never really experienced maybe that feeling or know somebody with that. Until you do, you then go, oh shit, like maybe I should. And I feel like, these politicians, they've never been in our shoes, you know, they've never were middle class or poor. They didn't have to work their way up in a ladder, so to say. So their world is, you know, just something totally different. It's like District 9. They live really like, you know, on another world, so to say.
They live in a world of theory.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it sucks. It's like, how do we get somebody in politics that did start from like a ground zero, you know, work their way up, that maybe knows that shit?
They have to come up through, you know, a not a party type situation.
Right.
Because just like you saw how the bills in the House are getting held up and all this stuff is happening because the Democrats and Republicans are fighting each other as opposed to, you know, working together to make something better. Both of these parties have their own ambitions. And really the only way that you can get to the higher levels of power within these parties is by playing ball with them. You know, when you see, you know, I always use Baltimore as an example because it's closest to home. But like when you see somebody running for mayor in Baltimore City, it's almost crazy to me that people actually think that that person who wins or whatever is actually like they worked up through that structure, that Democratic Party in the terms of our city. They worked up through that structure, which has a stranglehold on everything down there. They have no competition. There's no way Republicans ever going to win. So there's no incentive for them to ever have to actually do anything to earn your vote. So instead, they have a complete control over what they're doing. And they know that, hey, if you want to have a position of power in this city, you have to go through us. You have to run as a Democrat. And if you run as a Democrat, you're going to have to play ball with us. And so anybody who makes it to those levels of power is already compromised.
Right.
You know, you kind of need somebody to come in who's just literally working for the people. This whole idea, you know, that somebody's going to change the system from the inside, I don't see it. You know?
I mean, I feel like it'll literally take somebody who's like Jesus, like somebody who's so special that people can see that it doesn't require money. You know, like again, like you look at these politicians, for them to run, just the amount of money that they need backing, you know, of funding from others that, you know, it's insane. It's like, what? You need to be a millionaire to be able to run for this shit? Like, that's why like Andrew Yang never took off, because he's just like, in comparison to people like Trump and Biden, it's like, yo, you got no hope. Like, and which is so crazy. It's like, to even be able to play ball, you need to have.
Well, like, first, anyone coming in to even have a shot at ending up the president, and they have to go through like the two-party system. But if their campaign is kind of threatening to the party that they're running for, then they're running up against the establishment. They're running up against the pre-existing, like, you know, Yang with that Democratic Party. They tried to fucking throw shade at him, and then they had fucking like Buttigieg and Klobuchar drop out, go behind Biden, and Warren was there blocking Bernie, and, you know,
definitely
they just have like weird, that you'd think that party would just like work together to be like, all right, you know, winner take all, may the best man or woman win.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, we have the guy that we have some shit on, not, you know, saying that they have shit on Biden, but it's like, this is our horse in the race. Let's go fucking kneecap all the other ones.
Yeah, Mr. Patsy.
Yeah, I mean, and it's weird. I'm not trying to talk like conspiracy or anything, but it kind of feels, and it's just us doing it. But if we look at anything else, I feel like we can make the same connection. So it's like Nike and Adidas. Like, nobody's gonna rock Fila's or like Reeboks and
Pumas.
And it's like Microsoft and Apple. You know, you got to pick one or the other. You can't do something outside of it, and people really get connected to that shit. Like, it's almost like they take it personal that like someone doesn't fuck with Apple or someone doesn't fuck with me. It's like, yo, dog, like, are you even?
Yeah, bro.
Like,
why am I getting a green text bubble when you're texting me?
Oh my god. Yeah, it's a real thing.
But it's like even like celebrity shit. If like I were to talk about like maybe a movie that I liked, and then I start talking about the actors in it, and maybe you don't like those actors, and then we for some reason feel like we gotta defend these people because like what, you don't fuck with, like, this guy was so artistic and he's like so this and so that, like, how could you not like this person? And we get into a stupid ass battle about a person we don't even know, and it's like, it's just so crazy. It's like,
well, I mean, I think it, like, you know, it's basically like sports teams, like fucking, if you're in Baltimore and you like the Ravens, you hate the Steelers or whatever. And that kind of shit was like, we put money behind football after like World War II because like we needed more shit we could get behind as a country. You know what I mean? Like, because we weren't fighting any wars. We weren't like, all right, you got to cheer for your country. It's like, no, you got to fucking a platoon on the fucking field and in gear, and they're going to go get this ball across it. But now I feel like that's everything, just because like there's not been a big like rallying cry for everyone. Like, everyone's so individual now. Like, it's kind of weird that like we are a country because like half of us hate each other. For like no reason, really. You
really can't have a country like this. I mean, people, it sounds conspiratorial or crazy, but I mean, the way our country is divided right now, like, civil wars have started over less. You know, this idea that like we're immune to that or that can't happen. Like, first of all, it happened 150 years ago, you know, and it's like I don't see how the country can continue on with this level of division. And part of me sometimes wants to blame people for having that mentality of of like treating it like sports teams and not really truly being educated on what these parties actually are. They have so much allegiance to something, and they don't even understand that Democrats and Republicans aren't the government. They're just people competing for seats in the government. You know,
and it's like professional wrestling at this point. Like, they all go back to the locker room and hang out and chill together. Like, they're not actually enemies. They're just like playing a part on stage in the whatever halls of Congress or wherever the fuck they are, just to be like, all right, I like this kind of person voted me in. I gotta fucking play up this part on stage, and you know, I'm never gonna vote for a Republican bill and da 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 da. And then they go fucking get a burger after it.
yeah.
Like, oh yeah, you should come to my daughter's birthday. Da da da.
And in the meantime, the people who aren't aware of that, which is everyone pretty much, or most people, if you're a person who just kind of casually just kind of follows what's going on, and you don't really take the time to look into the inner workings of the party system and stuff like that, then you're susceptible to falling into that division. Like, that's the main problem when you have the duopoly that we have right now, is that the parties no longer really have to say what they're going to do for you. They just have to say what the other party isn't going to do for you, or how the other party is going to harm you. Yeah. You know, so they're up there playing parts on stage, and the on both sides, and they're going, oh, well, if you vote for a Democrat, they're going to do this X, Y, Z, and then if you vote for a Republican, they're going to do X, Y, Z, and it's like it's all stoking fear in the public to get them on your side. You're just scaring people into picking one side or the other, and at no point do people ever wake up and go, wait, we don't have to pick either one of you. And then there's this kind of popular mentality, which is that if you vote for someone else, if you vote for someone who's not either party, it's you're throwing away your vote, you know. And so because people are such, you know, we say people are so individual now, but I almost think it's less like that. You know, yeah. I think that with everybody having access, such immediate access to information, the people who are controlling the information you get are able to manipulate much larger groups of people much faster. So whereas in 1942, you would have had to either have like a really expensive radio or have to go wait for the newspaper to come out or go to a movie theater, like Eric was saying, to watch the news broadcast. And it took time. Like, news wasn't an immediate part of your life. So your primary way of looking at the world was based on your own experiences. Like, I live in bumfuck Alabama. This is the stuff that I deal with on a daily basis, and this is how I think about it. Now, somebody who lives in Alabama, somebody who lives in LA, somebody who lives in fucking Turkey can all be seeing the same information immediately. And now you have all kinds of people with far more access to information having a much less nuanced perspective on the world. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
No, yeah, individual was a bad way to phrase it. But what I meant to say was, like, nowadays, instead of having that one outlet of information, or like, instead of like it's USA versus whoever else, now it's like, all right, well, you know, I like Xbox and, you know, fuck PlayStation, da da da, or like there's little battles that everyone's fighting behind now that don't really mean anything, but it's also kind of like becomes their identity. So then it's, you know, it's like the I'm red, I hate blue.
Yeah.
It's just like now there's thousands of those things going on concurrently instead of just the one.
Yeah, and everybody's fighting for their own crusade, you know. So it's like there really is, like, it's the oldest thing in the book. It's cliche at this point, but the divide and conquer mentality. I mean, you're basically taking a country of people who are all essentially suffering from the same thing right now. I mean, obviously different people in varying degrees.
We're all literally suffering from a fucking pandemic.
Yeah. Everyone's going through it. Everyone is feeling the effects of it. There's not a single person in this country who has not been forced to, in some way or another, cope with what's going on right now. We're all united in that way. Yeah. But yet, even with something that unifying, even something that strikes every single person in one way or another, we can't seem to coalesce behind, you know, we can't even seem to agree upon, you know, getting money out to people who need it, or to everybody. Even, hey, everybody gets a check. We can't even agree on that, you know?
Yeah, because I feel like even in that, it's like you got two sides where when you give them the money, they're going to be lazy. And if you don't give them the money, then they're going to be suffering. And I feel like, you know, it's just two different mentalities I feel like in everything. Like, you look at even, like, we're people that are tribal, right? That's, human beings are just, that's just what we are. But when we have something like social media, where, again, it feels so surface, like, you could be Republican, I could be Democrat. We might disagree on some things, but maybe we both fuck with the same artist, the same
Yes.
music. But we're not gonna know that because I just saw that you retweeted Trump's shit, and I don't like that. So therefore, I'm only seeing you as this person. Where in fact, you could fuck with everything else that I fuck with, but that one thing, that's what we're gonna focus on. That is gonna separate us, and I feel like that's everybody, you know. And it's so stupid because again, it's like, why would we all want to be the same anyways? I understand that it's way more complex than that, but at the same time, I feel like we are choosing to look at the negatives as opposed to like the positives of things.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
it's just so crazy.
Well, you say it's way more complex than that, but it's really almost not. I mean, obviously there's more details and specifics to it, but from a grand scheme of things, that really is what's going on. You're not supposed to know somebody on that level unless you know somebody on that level. Like,
Right.
you know, you and I and Eric are all close friends, and we all have had long conversations. We've all known each other long enough to know where we're coming from. If I say a political opinion or something that you disagree with or that Eric disagrees with, we all understand each other enough as people to know, okay, well, I can see why Scott thinks, I can see why Jimmy thinks that, and I understand them enough as a person to talk through it.
Yeah.
But somebody who doesn't know us on that level might just see that, oh, you retweeted this guy,
Right.
and now you're just permanently in that category as this other person. You're not on my side, you know? And it really is that simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's for sure. And I do think, again, it's as Americans, we just have such a huge ego, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the amount of times that I've seen two different, sides trying to have an argument or conversation. It just looks so funny when they just get so frustrated, and you can almost feel that they're trying to say anything to just try to get to the other person, because at that point it's just fuck it, like we're not going to agree on stuff. So now I'm just going to make you see, like, I'm just going to treat you like a piece of shit and vice versa,
Yeah.
It's very strange.
It's the oldest debate tactic in the book. The whole idea of debating is I don't have to make me right. I just have to make you wrong.
Yeah.
And so instead of actually debating any particular issue to forward the conversation, you get to character assassination. Well, you think that, and then it's like,
Right.
at the end of the day, nothing actually happens. And here we are stuck. And because people are so ingrained in that, it's like like I said, I don't see a way out. I don't know how this gets better. Like, regardless of what happens in the next 4 years, like, we got the election shits, every single thing that's happened this year has been like something that you're like, what the fuck is going on? Every single fucking thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, does that change? Does that ever get better? How does that ever get
Hopefully.
better?
I mean, I think it will get better. I think that, I mean, that's just me being optimistic, but
I mean, what you're saying earlier is there's like literally needs to be some sort of like Jesus-like figure that like is a big unifying force for everyone. And I kind of agree with that. And it doesn't even have, Jesus-like may turn people off because they might think it's some like weird spiritual awakening thing or yada, yada, yada. Or like it might be sacrilegious to be like, oh no, Christ already came or blah, blah, blah. But no, it just basically, if the right was into Bernie like the left was, that would have been a good example. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I still don't understand why they fucking chose Biden over Bernie. Just because, like, especially now with everything going on, like, I don't understand how there's not a Medicare for all type of situation. Like,
Well, because, they didn't pick Bernie over Biden because they had the party.
yeah, the healthcare industry
Had-
was like,
yeah.
whew, thank
Yeah.
God we got Biden, and let's just let the stocks go up a little bit.
The Democratic Party isn't interested in putting up a candidate that's going to do something. They're interested in putting up a candidate that's going to do something for them and their party and the prolonging of their status in the government. So they're not interested. That was like the big thing in 2016 whenever I was like, oh, like, because it was a very close race, Bernie and Hillary in 2016, and the whole thing back then was that they had the superdelegates, where basically the party officials could essentially overturn the vote of the base. Like, if everybody in the country voted one way, they could pretty much, unless everybody in the country voted in one specific direction, the party officials essentially got to decide who their candidate was. Right. And I think that was the first time when people actually woke up to what a party is, because people are going, that's not democratic. It's like, yeah, it's not, because the Democratic Party sat down or the Republican Party or whatever party, their private organization, their private company, if they sat down and said, we're going to decide our nominee based off of who can win this arm wrestling match, they could. There's no
But
rule.
also, it's like that's how it works in the general election too, and people kind of like just assume that's how it works in both. Like people don't understand. Like, no, the primary is just picking the either
guy.
Democratic or the Republican candidate.
Yeah.
And also, it doesn't really matter because they don't have to take the vote in.
Yeah.
They do it as like a ruse to make you think that it's like your choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
They technically could just submit a person like the Green Party does. Like, I'm pretty sure the Green Party just picks their people they want to go.
Yeah, probably. I don't remember. Is there a primary for the Green Party?
I don't
Maybe.
think so.
I don't know. I know that there might be for the Libertarian Party, but I don't fucking know. But in terms of the whole Jesus-like thing you were saying, the one thing that always sticks out in my mind is my grandfather said this once. He was like, Jesus, the whole story behind, whether you believe in Jesus as a person or a Messiah or whatever it is, the story of Jesus is this person is the Son of God, meaning he knew everything to say. He's a son of God. Essentially, that's the story. That he knew all the right things to say. He knew all the right things, and they still crucified him.
Right.
So you're talking about this person who comes along, who's going to unite people.
Yeah.
And it's like,
You're trying to say that's Trump?
no.
They crucified him in the media.
What I'm trying to say is that when you look back through history, a lot of times you don't know, at the time there was a small group of people who believed in Jesus, and the powers that be at the time, the powers that were, whatever, killed him, had him executed for doing that. And it's like, it's like if a person can't come through that system because when they do, they're going to be squashed out by their own party.
Yeah.
Because the party is bigger than them.
Right.
So the only way to do it is to not go through the party. And the people are never going to get behind it because they're so inculcated in this idea that you only have
Voting
two choices.
outside the parties is a waste of a vote.
Yeah.
And no one wants to have Cricket Wireless. No one wants to fucking, have what's the fucking streaming
We
platform?
only know-
Crackle.
Crackle.
No one
yeah.
wants
But
to-
Crackle's free.
Yeah.
Quibio or something.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Quibi.
Something like that.
Everybody wants to be on board with something, and so that's how it's gone. Yeah, that's human nature.
Yeah.
But they prey upon that. So, like I said, I just, it's almost like you're in a bar situation and two guys are chirping at each other, and there's always a point where, you've been in situations where two guys look like they're about to fight, and sometimes it gets de-escalated, but there is always a point of no return.
Yeah.
There's always a point when it just gets, these guys are going to fucking fight.
Yeah.
And there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like as a country, we're fastly approaching that.
Yeah.
I just, I think it will get better, but I think it's probably going to have to get a lot worse before it does.